Hey, how y'all doing? Hope you're having an awesome day. I'm sitting here and enjoying some coffee. Um, my name is Tex. This is Tex Talks. So today's subject is going to be specific to personality disorders, not any particular one, although there are several that have a connection to this particular problem that I'm going to talk about. Some people will come in here and admit that they're too clingy, that they have to be careful, they'll suffocate other people, that people will get mad at them because they tend to constantly call them, text them, be all over them. They need reassurance, they need somebody there all the time. It's a repeated thing. People then ask me, how do I change that? How do I stop being that way? I think it's important to understand why you're feeling that way and why that's occurring. Then that might help you also then change the behavior. It helps you get the proper motivation to make that, and to also know that it can be changed. That's part of the difficulty of changing things. If you believe that it can't be changed, you believe that you're stuck, you find value in not changing. Although a lot of people will say, I want to change, they will also, if they really truly admit it, go, and there's some benefit to not changing, to keeping things the way they are. Whether it's just the comfort of feeling things are the same, or whether it's actually a case of the pros and cons, and the pros at this point in time outweigh the cons of changing the behavior. So back to clinging. I have lots of clients who will tell me that if they have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and it's quite common now to have either an online boyfriend or girlfriend that lives somewhere else, or even someone who's there, and because of media, they're able to call them, talk to them, and keep constant contact. They feel the need for constant contact. That if they don't get text all day long, if the person doesn't answer their text immediately, they start to go into a spiral. If the person doesn't call every night, I have people that say they literally fall asleep with the phone in front of them, FaceTiming or talking, and they get upset if the other person doesn't participate in this nightly ritual. Then they wonder why the person starts to quickly shy away from them. At first, it can be likable to the other person who receives this attention. For someone who doesn't normally get as this much attention, or someone who's not used to it, it can be quite flattering to have somebody want you to talk to them and be there for them all the time. It can get quite tiring very quickly. It's exhausting. It's literally a case of you can't go do an activity with your friends, whether it's, bowling or fishing or hiking or anything. The other person is, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? Hey, what are you doing? Hey, I need to call you. How are you doing? Why haven't you called me? Why didn't you return my call? And it's a constant pull on the other person that for some people, they get frustrated with. And then the actual behavior of trying to make sure the person is there ends up being the behavior that drives that person away. So a lot of times, you'll be with a friend and you'll be like, so you keep checking your phone. What's going on, man? What's going on? And they're like, oh, he's calling me again, or she's calling me again. And, sometimes it's a jealousy issue. Sometimes it's an overprotectiveness issue. Again, though, when we talk personality disorders, we talk about a persistent behavior across many facets of your life that is long running. That's a personality thing. So when this occurs, and you've noticed it in lots of your relationships, or even if you find yourself attracted to someone who does this, ask yourself, remember what I said, lock and key. If the other person has the key that fits, what does that say about you and your lock? You might be attracted to this kind of behavior, which means that you yourself have to question, why do you need someone to be that clingy to you in order to feel good? So now that we've started to see what the behavior is and explain it a little better, maybe a little history on where it comes from. It's different for every person. Some people, though, it is back to that fear of abandonment, which is common in some of the cluster B. So when you have borderline personality disorder, you may have this inherent emptiness that needs to be filled, or a fear of abandonment So in order to ease that fear, constant contact, calling, texting, reassuring, where you at, what you're doing all the time. This is also possible, though, that you could see this in other personality disorders, because someone who has a dependent personality disorder might need you constantly for advice and reassurance. When you look at the avoidant personality disorder, part of the criteria is the idea that you will not put yourself out there unless you're guaranteed that the other person likes you. So you might hesitantly push out constantly, making sure the other person is okay with you, that you did all right, that everything's okay, so that you can keep that level of anxiety down. And in all these cases, what ends up happening is the behavior itself increases the need for behavior and increases the anxiety that goes behind it. In other words, when you feed into a fear, the fear gets bigger. When you are at a party and the only way that you can feel better is to run out of the party, and you keep running out of the party, then after a while, your body becomes attached, not just your mind and thinking, but the anxiety levels in you are such that it pushes you to get a release by leaving. I've told people that when they're in the grocery store and they start to feel a little overwhelmed, going through the self-calming techniques can help them to stay there and not run out, because running out feeds into an increased desire to run out the next time and the next time. And same thing happens with this constant contact. If you are needing reassurance and you're texting and texting and texting, that texting and texting and texting, you would think, well, look, you text, you got an answer back, you're reassured, you can let it go. No, because what if that text was the one that the person needed before then they go off and do something that I don't want them to do, or go somewhere where they won't contact me? So I better hurry up and contact them again and again and again. See how that just feeds into itself. And then when you don't get that call back, you don't have that person stay on the phone with you until they fall asleep, you lose it. And the world is ending, and it's the worst thing ever, and everything is crashing. So now you can see where we've shifted from some of the cause and effect, and what's going on and how it affects your life. So now you can see that there may be a reason for you to actually make the change. And how do you make the change? As I've already started to say, using your coping skills. So many times people will shortcut and not want to learn the coping skills, or they will only want to use the coping skills when they're in distress. Remember, I said the breathing exercise is a daily practice, so that when you need to use it, it's automatic. You've got it down pat. Every coping skill that you want to be able to use effectively, you need to practice on a regular basis. There is no quick way around this. People want instant solutions. Well, I got news for you. You didn't have an instant problem. It took you a long time to develop these problems, because these are embedded in your personality. That means that they're long-standing. So now you've got to have long-standing solutions. Plus, an instant solution, even if you had it, might not be very effective in the long run, because the thing keeps coming back. So if you learn to use the breathing technique and to calm yourself down and to wait and not retext, that is a skill that will help you. And over time, that urge to do it will also go down. See, this is where the lesson is again. The more you feed into your urge to call or text or reach out to get that security, the more you will do it in the future. It's never ending and escalating. So in the same way, by holding off longer and longer periods of time with not needing that constant contact, you become okay without it. Some people will say, well, if you trust the person, you won't have to have constant contact. When we're not dealing with things that are long-term learned personality traits, that might be the case. In other words, in a typical average situation, if you feel like you need to keep checking on something, then maybe there's a reason. What I'm talking about, those people who need a constant check-in, no matter who it is and no matter what the situation, there is no such thing as trust. Nobody is trusted. Nobody's going to be there. Everyone has to be checked on constantly to make sure you're there. And when you get to this point, like I said, you realize it's You had this for a while and it's pretty long standing. So now you have to work real hard to ease it away. There's no quick solution. Now, I do have people that will say, well, but it takes so long to learn the skills. Actually, learning the skills is not hard. It's practicing them daily. That may be where your difficulty comes in because you want instant results for a long-standing problem. Again, no shortcuts. And medications can help you with your anxiety, but medications don't stop habits. If you don't believe me, look at any smoker. I can give you all the nicotine patches in the world. I could bump you up on both arms, give you nicotine gum, and you know what? An urge for the habit is what gets you. And you have to learn to change your habits. And again, that's practice, long term, over and over, daily, doing it. That's where a lot of people bump off the trail. They don't do it. I've been asked, well, why is it so difficult for me to make these habits a daily thing where I change and I do the breathing exercises, I extend the time between calls, or I delay or don't call or put that off. Somewhere in the back of your mind, for some people, they don't want to change. And I don't mean that to mean that they're deliberately, being mean to themselves. What I mean is unconsciously, they are self-sabotaging because the behavior, again, they're not focused on that. They're focused on what they want, which is relief from the problem. And this goes into any kind of change, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or patterns of behavior. All this goes right back into that. When they call and someone answers, that's instant dopamine hit. When you have an urge for a substance or an alcohol thing, and you get it, instant dopamine hit. And the phone is a big dopamine hitter. Every time somebody answers, replies, whatever, you get a ooh, you feel good. The thing is all those oohs add up to one oh shit, because the end result is a really bad feeling and losses and difficulties and a hard life. So that's why I encourage people to realize what's going on and work on it daily. Now, is some change possible in an instant? Sure. The habit, though, of keeping up the change, that's where it falls. You can do a breathing technique in the morning and go, hey, I noticed the results. I really feel a little bit calmer right here. The habit you have to get into is doing that every morning or every evening or whenever you pick as your designated time, making it a habit. Then when you have to pull that habit out, cause things are getting stressed, the habit's easy. You got it down pat. You can breathe. You can relax. You can let your shoulders drop. You can focus on something else. So you got to work on it. Again, if you want to make the change, you got to find the motivation to change, hold the motivation, and then do the work. Got to do the work. I think there's some kind of phone thing that allows people to track each other 24/7. I can see the value if you're a driver for delivery services and somebody wants to make sure you're safe and where you're at. I can see having it turned on while you're doing your DoorDash, if that's what you do, or, your Uber or Lyft stuff. I got that. I can see, there is probably some value in it. But in the end, when whole groups of people are doing it constantly, and boyfriends and girlfriends and husbands and wives are doing it, then it becomes a case of literally spying on your partner 24/7 for reassurance. Ask yourself, are you really worried about the other person's safety? Or are you more worried about your reassurance? That's a big sign that you're using technology to feed into the bad habits. Okay, I'm going to let that go where it's at. I hope you have an awesome day. I hope it helps. And remember, if you have any questions, ask me the questions. Ask me to do a video. I try to keep up with the comments that come down below because I also want to be able to answer and do videos accordingly. So I really do encourage you to speak out and ask for what you want, and I will do my best to get that video out as soon as possible. Hope you have an awesome day. You take care, and I look forward to talking to you again.